Hi, and welcome to According to Weeze, the podcast. With me, your girl Weeze. This is a show where we're going to have candid conversations with the hopes of finding a way forward in community. See, fundamentally, I believe that we exist at the intersection of our complex identities, politics, and our sociocultural systems. And let's be real, the only way to dismantle it all is to dissect it. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of At the Intersection. I'm super amped, not only because this is my first episode, but in true Weeze fashion, we're going to do this a little bit differently. I am joined today by correspondent Slip and Slide of the NANN News Collective. If y'all don't know what NANN is, you slacking on your mackin', you need to figure it out. Never Again News Network. You haven't been following me if you don't know. Shout out also to our subscription newsletter. You can sign up for that. But you know, in the true spirit of anonymity, we have one of my NANN brethren here, and he is one of our official correspondents. It goes by Slip and Slide because, well, if you don't get the Trek Daddy reference, then you definitely don't know NANN. But hi, Slip and Slide.
I feel like I should really have a voice scrambler, like I'm in witness protection, because there's gonna be some people who absolutely recognize my voice, but so be it.
Oh
So be it.
well.
I'm gonna remain about as anonymous as I can today.
You know what? If the people know, then we are just going to trust that we are in community with them enough to maintain the anonymity and not say anything publicly. But okay, so first, before we dive in, for those that don't know what NANN is, because I think it's super important, why don't you talk to us a little bit about NANN real quick? And because this is going to be something that y'all need to get familiar with. We're going to have NANN segments throughout the life of the show. So talk to the people. What is NANN? Why did we start it? What's the point?
NANN stands for Never Again News Network. It's also, a reference to uh, the song by Trick Daddy by the same name. The whole purpose of NANN was to try to create kind of an online political education initiative. You and I have known each other long enough. You know how much I value political education. For folks that obviously don't know who I am or don't know what my background is, I do a lot of community organizing. I do a lot of communication strategy. And I put a premium on political education in the organizing process. So this is really born out of a need to try to get information, credible, vetted, trustworthy information to help people make sense of what is happening in the news cycle and what is happening, in broader patterns of intersecting crises in the United States. And, we're coming from the position of there's a lot of news to keep track of. The news cycle is 24-hour thickness pretty much every day. Part of my job is to monitor the news. So this is like, this is kind of naturally what I do is to keep track of different subject matter, but we can't expect, people who are working 9-to-5 jobs who are not community organizers or who are not in, the kind of equity and justice field to be keeping track of all these different things at the same time. So we are trying to provide a means for people to keep track of what is important. And by important, we mean, you know, information that helps people stay safe, to defend democracy, to make society more equitable and just. So that is the purpose of the network, is to track and translate important news, so that other people in your audience do not have to.
That was lovely.
I should also say, just for the sake of being clear with people, who cannot see my video or don't recognize my voice, don't know who I am. The purpose of remaining anonymous is, one, to protect, the integrity of my professional career. The other is to just protect my safety, because some people on the internet are nuts. And based on what I do in my professional career, I just can't risk the integrity of my job or my
Yeah.
safety to be compromised. So
Yeah,
that's the purpose of it.
I think that's a super, super important point to make. Because people have asked me that before. Like, why doesn't new, even though NANN has its own IG, why do y'all never post there? Why don't you follow anybody? Why don't you allow commenting? How come it only gets posted on your platform? And when we say a collective, we are definitely more than even just the two of us, right? And everybody that has their hands in this in some way, shape, or form is to, Slip and Slide's point. I'm gonna call you Slip and Slide for the rest of our lives.
That's great. That's perfect.
But to Slip and Slide's point, right? Everybody that has their hands in this is truly invested in this work, whether it be from a political perspective, from an organizing perspective, from a policing perspective, from a policy perspective, from a, whatever perspective they're in, they are in some way, shape, or fashion adjacent to this work in much more formal ways than myself. Meaning, I have the benefit of one, having my own business, two, already have taken on the quote unquote burden of the wildness of the internet. That
Yep.
was something that I had already made a decision about.
Yep.
And we were very intentional about how we launched NANN as a news outlet, about not creating a new platform and just using what I had already built because of exactly that. I think a lot of people that follow me, like, sometimes I'll post like the wild shit that, like, the messages that I get death threats, like I get all sorts of stuff.
Right.
Not that I'm unfazed, like that shit will rock me, of course. And I've taken safety precautions, like I have a different address for business and things that get shipped to and all of that. But that's already something that I had undertaken.
Yeah.
And I, people that have followed me a long time know this. My racial ambiguity, and one, colorism is real, and two, my racial ambiguity provides me a modicum of safety and navigation that my very visibly anything, whether that Latinx, Black, Asian, folks really like don't have. There is an amount of confusion caused by racial ambiguity
Yep.
that, if you know how to like play the system properly and you understand power dynamics, that you can use it as an advantage. And so we were very intentional about all of those things when we decided to put it out there, because first and foremost, safety is imperative. Not only financial safety, so to your point, like protecting everybody's jobs, but actually protecting people's faces and well-beings and families and things like that.
Yep.
So again, that's a risk that I had already undertaken. And so it was like, well, fuck it. Like, y'all already hate me. Y'all already slander me and come for my life just because I say Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Like, what's another version of saying that gonna, what difference does that make? It doesn't make a difference. So fuck it.
Yep.
Um, and so I think that's really important actually to name, because that's not something that we talk about. That's not something that I talk about ever, actually.
Yeah.
That there are, folks are on watch lists when they go to the airport, and names are monitored, and people are legitimately being murdered and dying mysteriously in a post-Ferguson era. So it's really not like, safety is not a joke. Like, we're not being trivial when we say these things and when we have to take these kind of things into precaution. So thank you
Yeah.
for naming that.
Yeah, and I just want to give folks that are listening full disclosure. I have experienced, a mild case of PTSD as a
Yeah.
result of some of the organizing experience that I have. I happen to be in a time period of my life where I'm trying to be extra precautious about protecting my physical and mental health. And this is, a time period in the United States where resistance to um, the current regime in the White House is being criminalized. So,
Yes.
the more time that you expend, either in physical protest environments or engaging in online discussion, being critical of police, being
Hmm.
critical of the Trump administration, increasingly those activities are being criminalized, and because of the way that communication and privacy rights are set up in this country, we don't have a lot of opportunity for anonymity. So
Hmm.
y'all got to forgive me for being a little bit precautious, but it's with the right intent.
Well, that was a lot heavier of a way to start a first episode than I intended.
Sorry, y'all.
Hey, this is the realness. This is the realness. And we're gonna get into it. So the intention of this episode, for folks that are like, Weeze, what are we doing? y'all know, if you know me, you know I'm very, very clear. I set the containers, I set expectations. I believe in community agreements. I believe in, just like setting a standard, if you will, and being really clear and explicit on like what we're doing and how we're doing it and all of these things. What you will also know about me is I'm not good at talking about myself. If you followed me for a while, I'm just not good at talking about me because it's not that I don't think I'm interesting, but I'm like, there's so many other things we need to be talking about. Like, who cares where I grew up? But I get that, people want to know things. So fine, we'll do that. But I also just want to like introduce people to like the show and the segments and kind of like what we're doing. And I also wanted to introduce people to NANN because it's going to be something that they start seeing regularly. So I'm going to kick it over to you, correspondent slip and slide.
Okay.
And I'm gonna let you run this show. So we're gonna flip the script on how I'm gonna do the show normally, and I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna let this be your show, and I'm gonna answer the questions. How's that?
No one person should have all this
I
power.
know.
Um,
I know.
all
I'm
right.
like,
Well,
I'm a little concerned for
let's
what's coming.
let's let's start with an easy one,
Okay.
because I think it's worth you articulating why at the intersection. So let's
Yes.
start there so that you can explain to folks, why this podcast and what purpose it's going to serve.
Yeah, so that's probably the best place to start. So first, like at the intersection, the name is super important to me, and it was one of those like come to Beyonce moments where I was like sitting with myself and I was kind of looking at my work and my purpose, and I realized that having my academic background is sociological, so it's sociology, ethnic studies, and then like post kind of formalized education, it's obviously expanded into like community work and service work and like liberatory work. And what I learned very clearly what I understood very clearly, very quickly, was that the conversations that actually move us forward are conversations that honor the fact that we are all living at the intersection of our lived experiences, our social identities. Our social identities really inform those lived experiences, right? So those two are inextricably linked. And our sociocultural systemic realities that we cannot escape and that we can't ignore. And
Mhm.
so if we're going to really talk about like how do we dismantle, how do we dissect, how do we make change, how do we bring about change, how do we move forward, how do we take steps towards liberation and freedom of all people, then we really need to start having complex, nuanced conversations that exist at the intersection of all of those realities. Because none of this exists in a vacuum, and none of this is like solitary or singular. And this is happening to all of us as a collective. So I thought that was really important. That's where the name came from. And then in terms of having the conversations, like I'll be honest, I just got tired of listening to a lot of people. It's like either they're super academic, which is fine, or it's just real people having honest conversations. But I felt like there was always something being missed. Like the academics are talking over real people. The real people are like sharing their lived experiences, but maybe don't have the particular training to be able to frame it in a kind of larger global scope. And so I really wanted to find a space where we can bring those things together, right? Like we can bring somebody who has spent their whole life being subjected to, the militarized over policing of urban communities, or urban, quote unquote, right? Black and brown communities, who's just lived that experience, as well as a, you know, union representative from the police. Wild conversation that could happen, but like what could happen and how could we move forward and what could we all learn if we actually brought those types of people into the room, right? Or if we brought an extreme academic into the room and also then brought in people who are actually living the things that these folks are studying. How could everybody shift and change, and then how could bringing those conversations into a larger community space actually affect a long-term change, because people are actually starting to think not only critically, but within real life experiences. So they're taking critical thought and critical theories and really situating them in everyday lived experience and life.
Mm.
So I thought that was just important. And I'm sure maybe that in some scope of the internet, some part of the world, people are having that conversation. I haven't heard it. And so I wanted to do that. And I also think, again, like nod back to what I said earlier, the reason that, for example, I can take more risk in terms of having NANN on my social media platform is I occupy a very specific space in within, right, like the American race dynamic and politics and like race politics, where I can also get away with saying some wild shit. And the unfortunate fucking reality is, because, again, because of colorism, because of my ambiguity, because I can flow back and forth between, right, the code switching of like academia and sit behind the degrees in the prestigious university, as well as just like be a real person that grew up in a lot of these environments. There is a disgusting amount of acceptance that comes from the exact people that need to hear it, because it comes out of the face, right, the person that I am. And when I realized that, to me, I also took that, again, right, intellectually I knew it, and then I really started doing the work, and then from a lived experience I was like, oh, this shit is hella real. So I took that upon myself as a responsibility, right? I've always said we all have different commitments in the movement, and once you realize what your commitment is based on your positionality and your social identities and your, like, what resources you can provide, then you need to make that commitment. And for me, this is part of that commitment, saying the things that I can say and have more safety than some of my counterparts simply cannot say, right? Or quote unquote cannot get away with. Whether it's because of their social identities or because they work for corporations, right? Like they don't control their own dollar. But at the end of the day, who gonna fire me, boo? Nobody.
So this is like the red table talk, but we're unraveling political entanglements.
Ooh. Oh, we going there? Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I also just I want to bring it back to something that you said at the beginning of your answer,
Yeah.
which was a come to Beyonce moment.
Yes.
I have never heard anyone interchange Beyonce and
You've
Jesus.
never heard me say that?
I've never heard you say that, so I just want to understand how much of a pedestal you're putting Beyonce on.
Well, so I'll be honest, it came originally from a comment that I was like in conversation with a bunch of folks, and you know me, so you know, like I can just say things sometimes, like being kind of flippant or funny or whatever, or just to like make a point and rattle people. And it was this like conversation over like what is God and who is God, and if you look back at original texts, it was written in female, and then man got involved, literally humans got involved, and then because of the patriarchy it was gendered and da 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 da. And I was like, oh, so what we're saying is that God is a black woman. Got it, cool. And everybody was like, what? Like, didn't know what to do with that. And then I was like, I'm just saying. And then, you know me, I'm like, made my point, whatever. And then I jokingly was like, I feel like if God, since, no, I was something along the lines of, if white people can take Jesus and make him white as snow and like have soft curls, then, and if God is going to be a black woman, I feel like she would look like Beyonce.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
after that was done, I also like, it was kind of a joke at first. And then one of the things that was really important to me around, inclusivity and being mindful is that, Jesus represents something very specific. And so the idea of like a come to Jesus is like having a really critical self, like a moment of critical self analysis, right? Like an honest, truth, transparent moment with self or with others. And I just didn't like how it was wrapped up in Christianity. One, because Christianity has been weaponized against folks of color and specifically Black folks since the dawn of time. And well, we just talked about the depiction of Jesus. So I was like, how do we unreligiousify this phrase? And so I feel like some of the most emotionally honest and vulnerable moments I've had in public have been at a Beyonce concert, specifically Coachella. So it just felt right.
Well, I've never seen Beyonce live in person, but I feel like I just converted.
You missing out, fam. It'll change your life. I don't care what nobody
Okay.
says.
All right. So that's at the intersection. This is the next question I got for you.
Okay.
I I vaguely heard about this thing called Ask Weaves. Now I might age myself, but I'm old enough to know the reference to the old search engine called Ask Jeeves.
Yep.
Is there any relationship between the two? Can you please explain what Ask Weaves
So
is?
that's exactly what it is. So this is what happened when the Great White Awakening occurred in June. And all these white folks were like, oh my God, Black lives do matter. Black folks are being like murdered and at alarming rates by police. And oh my God, racism is real. A bunch of white folks started, and it's specifically white folks. Like, I'm not, saying doing the thing of like white people are the devil. Like, no, literally, it was just a bunch of white folks inundated my inbox, my email, my comment section, as if I was Google, as if my sole existence in this world was to provide free information at will. They could just type it into the search engine and I would just give them these answers, not at all paying attention to the fact that my time, my emotional, mental, intellectual capacity and labor are not free, that this is the work that I actually do as part of my career that pays my bills and feeds me. And so I was talking at some point to somebody and I said, Google is free. I am not. This is not Ask Weaves. And it stuck. And so I kept having to say that to people where like part of the Great White Awakening was a realization for white folks that their belief that they are entitled to the production or whatever it is that we are or that we represent for white folks, that they're entitled to it, that they have unfettered access to it, that they don't need to ask for consent or permission, and that they are just granted whatever they want. That was really challenged for a lot of folks. And so I like kind of came up with this phrase of like, this isn't Ask Weaves, Google is free. And so that being said, when I then decided that one of the things I wanted to do on the show was have real life conversations with everyday folks that have just of all social identities, right? That just have a question that they maybe want my input on or they want my guidance on. I was like, yo, I'm gonna be so petty. And I know I told y'all this isn't Ask Weaves, but again, right? Consent and boundaries. This is Ask Weaves. This is the moment where you get to ask the thing. So Ask Weaves now has become a segment on the show where I literally hop on a Zoom call with listeners. They ask their question. It's kind of like if you took Ask Jeeves and Dear Abby. Remember Dear Abby? We're hella old. But if you fuse the two and it was like, Weeze, here's the thing. Like, I have a question. And as long as it's within the scope of the work that I do, whether it's around liberation, decolonization, anti-racism, boundary setting, honoring humanity, what activism, organizing, education, any of those things, then you can come on. We got 15 minutes and you get to ask your question and I'm going to let you know what I think or feel. And then I'm going to send you out into the world. So it's your moment where you actually get to ask Weaves.
Well, this is perfect because I have several
Oh
questions
God,
that
I'm
I would like
nervous.
to put into your search bar. So, can I just get right into it?
Do it.
Okay. All right.
I'm so nervous.
Okay. Okay, first question. Are you or are you not Rachel Dolezal?
You're an asshole.
Because when I put is Louiza Doran into the Google search, it says is Louiza Doran white?
White. Yep. I know.
And so, are you aware of this?
Yeah.
Can you explain this? Please, let's start with this one.
Yeah, so I am neither Rachel Dolezal nor Jessica A. Krug, Dolezal 2.0. That's funny. So yes, I am aware. I'm aware mostly because friends and family, love me and they Google me because again, nod back to safety, right? Like folks just want to see like what of my, information is on the internet. And so a number of people screenshotted it and they were like, do you know that on Google, the very first thing that people ask is like, is she white? And I was like, yep, and I'm unfazed. Now, part of the reason that I'm unfazed is, and again, this because you've known me for so many years, but I am very clear on my racial identity and my ancestral lineage. I have always said that the reason that I look the way that I look is because of the atrocities committed against Black bodies that are members of the African diaspora at the hands of whiteness and colonization. And that has never been lost on me. I have always claimed the existence of, the space of racial ambiguity. I have always used that racial ambiguity for access and to navigate spaces and to try to open doors, take off the hinges, break down the whole wall so that I can create spaces for my visibly Black community members that are also doing this work so that I can like elevate them, amplify their voices, so on and so forth. So that's why I'm unfazed and I actually think it's funny. But to be 1,100% clear, this is also why Jessica A. Krug really bothered me, is that when this particular white woman was going about the African diaspora trying to pick a racial identity that associated her to blackness, that would like she could best get away with, she first picked like it just said North African, or I think it maybe was like Northwest African. It didn't say what like tribe, she might have tried to associate with. But that wasn't like comfortable enough for her. So then she moved on to Afro Latina, because that was apparently easier to pull off. But that being said, my entire ancestral lineage are from the Amazigh tribes of Northwest Africa. Our stronghold was, again, history is mostly written by white folk, and there's a lot of historic erasure. So what I know is that we come from what is commonly known today as Mauritania. We have a long history predating any colonization, of being an indigenous tribe in that whole region. And white people do what they do, and now I look the way I look, and it is what it is. But I'm very, very clear on my lineage. I'm very clear on my roots. I'm very clear on who I'm liberating and why. And I think it's funny, honestly. I think it's funny.
I'm just really happy to know that I'm not going to see you in a dashiki at
Ew.
Christmas dinner, and that you're not going to have to slang calendars to stay afloat. That makes me happy.
No.
Okay.
No.
Question number 2.
Yes.
What is your credit score?
Oh,
Are you ready to co-sign on a house?
837. Ow. I just checked that because I am looking into buying a house. Do you know that the highest score you can get is 850? Okay, that was it. I just wanted to let you know that.
I did that because I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, let me know if I can help you.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. What snacks do you have in your cabinet right this second?
Ooh, Topo Chico, salt and vinegar chips, super spicy knockoff Takis.
You said a Taki?
Yeah.
What's a Taki?
Oh, bruh. So Takis are these like chips, but they're rolled really, really tight. And then they have different flavors, and they have these ones that are like flaming hot, and they're hella good. So good. So I either like I have those, and then I swing the complete opposite direction. I have mixed unsalted nuts. I have rice cakes. I have organic sunflower butter and apples. That is currently what I have in my pantry.
I can relate to a lot of that.
Ooh, and chips and salsa. Sorry. For the sauces in the fridge.
Facts. Okay. All right. I need to go grocery shopping because I don't have any of those things on deck right now.
Did I already say Topo Chico?
You did say Topo Chico, but we're okay if you reference that twice.
Yeah. Topo Chico twice.
Okay. All right. Next question. What product or products, because it could be multiple, do you use to activate your curl?
Ooh, that's a good question. So currently, because every curl possessing human knows, you got to switch it up because your hair gets used to it. And so you got to trick it. So currently I'm using a mix of 2 different Miss Jessie's products. After I've already, so hold on, let me back this up. So I use Miracle 10 leave-in conditioner, and I leave a little bit of that in my hair to maintain the moisture. Then I put a mix of 2 different Miss Jessie's products. Then I use, and I forget the name of the actual, it might just be called Curl. Tracy Ellis Ross has a new line. So I'm playing with that. And then I use this, it's called Bosu oil. And I put that in my hair, and it's really been, my hair's been liking it. My curls have been on point. Also, I have been looking for silver linings in COVID, and one of the silver lining in COVID is that since I don't really go anywhere, I haven't been blow drying my hair. And everybody knows that without heat, curls come back to life. So my like curl has really been popping, and the natural juices and berries are just out of control.
You've been on a strong curl journey.
Ooh, have I? But we back.
But we're back. Okay. I feel like we signaled your answer to this next question, but I'd be really pleased to hear you articulate your top 3 sparkling waters and your justification for each one of their places on the leaderboard.
No problem. Topo Chico grapefruit, Topo Chico lime. Because everything else is
for anybody else.
Everything else is peasant water.
Okay, so let people know in your audience who, you know, probably drink La Croix, maybe they drink Pellegrino, maybe even they drink Perrier. Please let them know why Topo Chico.
So Topo Chico, first of all, is bottled at the source, okay? And so it somehow manages to capture and encapsulate the crispness and the bubbles that really come from the source, the mountain. To be honest, I don't really know what the source is, but it just sounds great to keep saying, and it's on the bottle.
Also, also that whoever that woman is that's drinking out of the river in that little drawing on the bottle, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Does that signal where the source is actually from, or
Well,
are they just
so
kind of?
I might have done a little bit too much research because I fall down rabbit holes, and apparently it is actually a mountain it's like a mountainous region in Mexico, and so it's like a spring that supposedly comes from is at the base of this mountain, and so it's actually like spring sparkling, like it comes up as sparkling spring water.
Okay. Okay.
Who knows if that's true or if that's just the internet, but
Okay.
I like it. I like the way it sounds. But basically, the bubbles are hella crisp. You can actually open a bottle, leave it out overnight, and go back to it in the morning, and the bubbles are unaffected. So it never goes flat. And it's like if your tongue was reunited with its best friend from childhood. It feels like that every time you take a sip.
That was emotional.
Yeah, that's how it makes me feel.
Quick follow-up question.
Yes.
Is Topo Chico as good or better than the SodaStream machine?
Oh, see, that's hard because the
And
soda.
by better, I also mean cost effective.
No, it is not cost effective at all. Topo Chico, if you'd like to sponsor me, holla. It's not cost effective at all. Topo Chico, like some people set money aside for like really good coffee or certain kinds of meats or I don't know, whatever their thing is. And I set money aside for Topo Chico cases because it's not cost effective. So technically the soda stream would be better also because you can customize how bubbly you want the water and you can put flavors in it. But I think I've just been indoctrinated into the Chico and I can't escape it now.
Mm. There is something about the glass bottle, the glass Topo
Yes.
Chico bottle too.
Well, yeah, because the plastic bottle doesn't have the same impact. I never buy the plastic Topo Chico
Facts.
at all.
Ever.
No, ew. Ew.
Okay. Next question.
Yes.
You're gonna need your phone for this one.
Oh God. Okay, I have my phone.
Tell us the first 5 songs on the last playlist you listened to.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay. Okay. Ooh, the last playlist I listened to was Vibe as Resistance. Okay, first 5.
First 5 songs.
Okay, Don't Waste My Time, Usher and LMA. Forfeit by Kiana Liddy and Lucky Day. Whoa by Snow Allegra. Dive and Disconnect by Neo. And Reflection by Trey Songz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
Ta-da.
That's a great question.
I have another question.
Yes.
I think you're gonna like this one.
Oh God, what?
Do you know who Haile Selassie is?
I hate you. Next question. Yes, thank you. I've known who that was since I was in high school, but you would know that.
For everybody at home, this was a terrible inside joke that takes us back to the origin story of my friendship with ask Weaves.
Yep.
We'll spare you that entire story,
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
except for the part where I was being drunk and obnoxious, and I had a Haile Selassie T-shirt on because at 18 years old, I was in that really obnoxious stage where I needed my political awakening to be on full display right in the middle of my chest, my bird chest, my 18-year-old bird chest. Um, and I was really obnoxious about asking Weeze if she knew who Haile Selassie was. So that is the reference to that terrible question. Next question. Uh, what has been your favorite travel experience that you've had? I'm hoping you have an entertaining story for us.
So yeah, my favorite travel experience would probably be a couple years ago. I packed a carry-on bag, and all I knew was the airport I was flying into in Europe and the airport I was flying out of in Europe. And I kind of vaguely had it was it was like the worst best idea I've ever had. It was like I'm a fly into and ooh, okay. So it was like I'm a fly into Amsterdam and I'm a fly out of London. That's all I knew. And I had dates. I did not have other than a place to stay in Amsterdam. I had no because I didn't know where I was going, so I didn't have places to stay. I was like, I'll figure it out once I get there. But then my flight to Amsterdam got canceled, and the only way I could get to Europe, like for the next 4 days, was actually to fly to Brussels. So I flew to Brussels, took a train, stopped in like Bruges, which is beautiful, then went to Amsterdam, spent 3 days literally just traipsing around Amsterdam until like 6 o'clock in the morning because it might be the safest place in the world, meeting a whole lot of people. And then I basically just like got on buses and trains. Like it was legit. Like I woke up every morning and was like, where do I want to go today? Like, do I want to stay here? Is there more that I want to see? Or do I want to go somewhere else? Also, weather played a factor because, like, I was going to go to hella places in Germany and then the weather dropped and I was like, you know, I don't do below 55 degrees. So, like, and that's like, that was what I did for like 2 weeks. And I just bounced around and I made hella friends. That was like one of my things. I was like, I'm going to talk to everybody. And I'm just going to go make friends with like all the people. And it was interesting. It's like I learned a lot about myself because it was also my first big trip like post divorce. So it was like I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about what I like, what I don't like when I travel. And it stretched me. It really stretched me because it forced me to just like not have plans, go with the flow, talk to strangers, like let things be what they were gonna be for like, you know, a day. Or you like meet, it was one me and one of my homegirls, so you like meet a bunch of boys that are like from that place or like from a different place, and then you're like, oh, we'll be friends for the next 3 days, and then like leave that country and don't have your phone number and don't have your Instagram, but like whatever. That was fun, keep it pushing. um that's probably one of my favorite travel experiences because of when it happened in my life, like what it meant for me. It was like my first trip post like rise of the phoenix from the ashes kind of moment. Um,
We all need an
yeah.
eat, pray, love trip.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was my European eat, pray, love.
Okay.
Um, that's a great, yeah. I like low key hate using that phrase because it feels a lot like the love, live, laugh
Oh
sign
yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
people put on their walls. But that's really low key what it was. Like I had my Julia Roberts moment where I was like, I'm gonna go to another place and just like rediscover all the things and remember that like I'm a badass and I'm liberated and I'm hella capable and all of that. So I would say that. And then other than that, honestly, like I don't know if I could really pick a single trip because I'm very fortunate to always travel. Like I'm very intentional about who I travel with. And so I always travel with people that are either my chosen family or like very close to it that I'm like deep in community with. And we could be anywhere. We could be in the middle of a sand dune and have an amazing time. So to be able to experience different parts of the world with people like that is just like every trip is super memorable.
Big facts.
That
Okay.
was a good question.
Okay. All right. We got two more.
Okay.
Uh, next one should be pretty easy. I want you to tell us about your guilty pleasure TV, if there's like a garbage TV series that you
Yeah.
binge on that you're a little bit embarrassed about, what is your guilty pleasure TV?
I have two. They're both old. I've rewatched both of them a few times. Gossip Girl and Desperate Housewives.
Wow. Wow. I haven't heard Desperate Housewives in a long time.
Yeah, started rewatching it again at the beginning of quarantine. Um, but
And
yep,
you went back to it. Why?
because real life was too much. And I was like, I need something that's just not at all, like, that makes no sense, that is so ridiculous that, like, I can just, like, laugh at and talk shit and be like, Susan, you so crazy. And, like, just not have to think about. And, like, for some reason, I call them desperate tumbleweaves, but desperate housewives just, it just felt like that was the show. It fit the bill.
As a sidebar,
Oh, and The Game. I'm rewatching The Game now. Or I actually, yeah, I'm rewatching that now that it's on Netflix. I'm rewatching The Game.
which one is The Game?
The Game is the
Oh,
one on BET with Derwin and Melanie, and they get married,
oh,
and they break up
oh.
and get back together and break up, and then get back together, and then it gets a girl pregnant, and then they break up and get back together, and then they get married, and then they get engaged, and then they break up and they get engaged. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the ones I'm like low key embarrassed about. There's other shows where I'm like, I have no shame in my game and I don't care.
I never got on board with The Game or Power or any of those shows that are sort of in that same category.
Yeah.
I just vaguely remember the like cover graphic of the show.
It's not a good show.
I mean, that's why it's a guilty pleasure, right?
Exactly. Like, it's
Like the
bad. It's just
like
not
the
good.
like the party size, Dorito bag of
That's
TV.
yes, yes. That's so good. Yes.
Okay, so last question, or
Okay.
at least the last one that I have prepared,
Okay.
and this is a really important one, so I need you to like put on your thinking
Okay.
cap,
Hold on. Let me sit up straight. Okay. I'm ready.
like summon all your years of
Oh,
academia.
damn.
Okay,
Okay. All right.
so the question is, why hasn't Kevin Durant ever
I knew
used a
I
brush,
knew this was coming.
grease, or a do-rag? How do you how do you explain that Kevin Durant has the hair on his head that he has,
Mm,
being that he's a Finals MVP and,
mm,
and a a
mm,
multi
mm.
NBA champion
Well,
and an All Star.
okay. Let me give you some hotepology, my brother. Kevin Durant decided many years ago that he was not going to conform to the societal pressures of physical beauty standards that are imposed upon us, especially as a young, up and coming Black man in the public figure. See, he wanted to, through modeled behavior, create a new norm. He wanted to give permission to all the young Black men out there that are told that if their waves don't cause seasickness, then they will never catch a girl, that their worth, that their value, that all that they are is their wave. He said, no, not I, not ever. I will break the mold. I will create a new standard, and I will be different for the next generation.
Okay, Dr. Umar Johnson, but what hooper, like, because even white hoopers probably wear do rags. What
Yeah,
what
they probably
hooper,
do.
what Black hooper do you know has never worn a do rag or does not take his hairline or his taper seriously?
One that has multi-million dollars, I guess. I honestly don't have a real answer to this question. I,
Is it
it,
really is it really just a matter that like he's so wealthy and
yes,
so deep into his craft that he just does not care?
yeah, I really think he doesn't care. I think he's like, oh, word, let me go back to counting these zeros. Like, he doesn't care. Also, you have to remember the unfortunate reality, like actual reality in our society, that the more money that you have, the more that you can get away with not having to actually conform to any sort of like societal expectations or care about appearance. This is why you see rich white folk, like billionaire dollared white bank rolled white folks with like holes in their t-shirts, wearing white tees, jeans, and like Birkenstocks and socks. Holes in their shirts. Don't give a fuck.
That's a fact, because most billionaire white people want to kind of obscure the amount of wealth that they have.
Yeah,
They want to mask it a little bit.
yeah. I really think he doesn't care. I think he
But
doesn't care.
let me ask you this follow-up question.
Okay.
If that was your child out in the world, and especially if that was your child who was showing up on TV every single day,
Mm,
would you feel some type of way? Like on the one hand, I can imagine that you would want to allow your baby to do what your baby wants.
correct.
But would you, as a mother, as your seed and your representative out in the world, you know, representing your family, would you feel some type of way and would you speak up?
I would probably, okay. So I've said this before, but you know, you've seen Black as Fuck, yes, on
You
Netflix.
know, I started to watch an episode and I was just too tired,
Got
so
it.
I should give it a chance. I haven't seen it.
But you're familiar. And for those that
Yeah,
aren't, go watch it. But Kenya Barris, who's the dad who plays himself, um, roasts the hell out of his children. He talks to his kids the way that we talk to each other.
very
Because,
important.
as many folks know, roast culture is, in fact, a love language, right? Within healthy boundaries and, so on and so forth.
Abuse is love.
Oh, whoa. That is, those are not the views of At the Intersection. No, but it is a part of the culture. It is a love language. And so what I will say is, would I speak up? I would roast my child regularly. I'm just being honest. I am going to be the kind of mom that Kenya Barris is as a dad. I'm almost positive. And so, yes, I would roast my child on a regular basis. I would also ask my child why he does not brush his hair. Like, genuinely, why are you not brushing your hair? Because I do at least hold the belief. I'm not saying it has to, your waves don't have to be out of control. You don't have to, have it all together. Sometimes I get on the internet and my baby hairs are not controlled. Fine. But we brush our hair and we brush our teeth and we bathe at the bare
Yeah,
minimum. Like,
yeah.
and quite frankly, no shade to him. Everybody gets to live their lives, but I hold the belief that you at least need to look like you bathed. You at least need to look like you brushed the things that need to be brushed.
Facts. Because we are not a billionaire white family and we don't have the luxury of being disheveled out in the world.
And that's just an unfortunate reality. Would I love for it to be different? Sure. But And then at the same time, though, I'm like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because babies come to school with their lineup fresh, Caesar fade, and then they get sent home because the lineup is too fresh. Like they can't take pictures at picture day. So, like, the reality is, the world doesn't want young Black men to win, regardless of whether their hair is brushed, waves are wavy, or waves are not existent and you look Duranty. Like, it's just the unfortunate reality. But me as a mother, to answer the question, yeah, I'd be like, baby, the fuck.
Facts. That's
And
a
then I
fact.
would let all of his aunts and uncles continue to roast him as well.
I was gonna say I'd put the picture of the top of his head in the family group chat and just instigate
Absolutely.
and hope everybody
Yeah, you're
flames
getting
him.
flamed. You're getting flamed. And because look, if your family can flame you out of love, then you're going to be unfazed. This is why I'm so unfazed by white people, because I get flamed all the time for all the things. And it's okay.
Yeah. We see it down in the comment section.
Oh my god, yeah. Also
They're
that
trying.
they listen.
They're trying.
I'm just like whatever. But like when your own people flame you, you know, you
That's my attitude.
like
If you can't roast me harder than my family and best friends roast me,
yeah. Like actually, speaking of, so let's bring it full circle. There was a period where this group of white dudes, it was like four of them, all got together and they went under every single one of my pictures and they were like, I really love your work, Miss Dolezal. Um, keep it up, Rachel. Like, just, somebody else commented and was like, what happened? Forget to go to the tanning salon, Rachel, or something like that. So I literally responded to one of them and I was like, oh, what a trolling fail. Come harder or don't come at all. Somebody else, I was like, when they call me Miss Dolezal, I was like, or no, call me Rachel. I was like, it's Miss Dolezal if you nasty, like Janet Jackson reference. I'm like, these are so bad. Like, if you can't roast me better than what happens on a regular basis in a group chat, where we're also having conversations about what kind of dog are you, like, come on now, fam.
Come on,
Try
man.
harder.
That shit's lame.
You're not good. Take your corny attempt at a roast and go somewhere. Like, bye. Have a seat. Try again. You're not good at this. Also, don't make me start talking about your mama. Because I will.
All right.
But yeah.
That is it for the questions that I wanted to put into Ask Weaves. That is the conclusion of our show. Coincidentally or not coincidentally, I just got a notification that my soda stream was delivered downstairs. So best believe I want to go retrieve my new box.
Listen, and let me know if you can perfect the soda stream settings to replicate Topo Chico.
Okay.
Because if you do, Topo Chico finna be out of business out here in my house.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for being here and doing this. This was a great way to kick off the show.
I hope people don't mind that they still don't know who I am.
They don't have a choice. That's part of the allure. What was that one quote from that one man that we don't really talk about anymore? Kanye. Oh, what is it? Nobody knows what it is, but it gets the people going. Yeah. I think people that are listening to the show and people that know me understand exactly why NANN is an anonymous collective, exactly what we're up against, exactly what the social climate is. When you have a rise in vigilantism, a la Rittenhouse and all of the other white folks who have been driving cars through crowds and open firing and taking crossbows to protests, and seeing the ways in which police officers are congratulating and thanking white supremacist vigilantes and militias and citizen terrorists. I know they're called citizen soldiers, but let's call them what they are, citizen terrorists. It's completely understandable. Right? It's completely understandable. And anyone that's going to listen and be like, I'm so bothered, just stop listening. Don't come back. Just don't. Just don't.
It's getting dicey out here.
It really is. It really is. Like, and on some serious shit, like to the point where my team literally regularly goes through the internet and has to see if I've been doxxed or like my information is out there, my phone number, my address. Like, it's not a joke, where we're constantly switching PO boxes just in case.
Right.
Like,
that is my exact healthy paranoia.
Yeah, and it's real, and I've actually had to do it. When my name is being banned on platforms, when mysteriously, everything that is attached to my name, any website, even websites that aren't live anymore, are starting to like have problems, and the server is down. Like, this shit is bigger than people really realize or understand. And so we have to be as safe as possible. And for some of us, that means maintaining anonymity. And for others, that means making a certain kind of commitment and putting other, precautionary measures in place. So they'll be all right.
Facts.
May. Well, correspondent Slip and Slide, I appreciate you. Until the next time, because you'll definitely be back. We're going to have all sorts of other things to talk about, because the universe always provides some fuckery.
The next time y'all hear from me, it's going to be, giving you the live update from the center of the hurricane, where I'm going to have my Patagonia jacket, and I'm going to be holding on for dear life so that I don't get swept away.
In your Patagonia. Lord have mercy. You're going to have Levi's 514 on too, and socks and slides?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm with it. All right, fam. I appreciate you being here. Until the next time. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Rate, review, subscribe, like, share this podcast with all of your peoples. Follow me on Instagram, and you can always join me in community over at Podia. Until next time.